Mike, Grand Rapids business ecosystem is considered by many the envy of the state. Tell us why Grand Rapids initiated Seamless as an accelerator focused on the Internet of Things.
This all goes back, more volume, more closer? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this all goes back, numerous years. As we were starting to build the ecosystem in Grand Rapids, we didn't have entrepreneurs that had, that were on their second, third venture. So as we needed intellectual capital, domain expertise to help our startups, we were reaching into our enterprises. We had deep relationships at, Steelcase and Bissell and Meyer stores and, all of these organizations that are there. As a byproduct of that, we started to realize that there were issues and opportunities on both sides. A lot of the startups that were coming to us were the type that you're talking about here. They were advanced material companies, they were sensor companies, they were big data. They were components of an ecosystem. They weren't standalone companies, and they needed commercialization capacity. At the same time, we had these enterprises that were seeing significant disruption in their current business models. If you're Steelcase or even Hayworth or Herman Miller and you're in office furniture, and now you see a company springing up like WeWork that's kind of taken a totally different angle on your industry and has 5 or 6 times the market cap of all 3 of those companies combined, right? Or your Meyer stores and Amazon buys Whole Foods. It's not even just that their core products and businesses are being disrupted. The entire value chain that they serve is being upended by technology at a pace that they will never be able to innovate at internally. So this was the notion of Seamless. How do we use this asset that we have in West Michigan, this unbelievable density of these global enterprises that need innovation to attract some of the brightest and best entrepreneurs from around the world that are in need of significant commercialization capacity. And that was the beginning. And so, we used some of our connections and pulled half a dozen companies together that are in a variety of sectors that are pretty instrumental to where, we'll talk about what IoT means. It's kind of a meaningless term, but that are kind of in that world. And we started building this accelerator, which, at this point has morphed from being an accelerator to really being a commercialization program. It's not residential. It's not lockstep, it's year-round, and we're pretty much running all the time with it now.
So, in terms of the specifics, describe a little more in depth how your accelerator operates and how you arrive at that startup technology that you want to recruit, and how the enterprise companies get involved. How do you bring the two together? How do you get one and find the other?
Yeah, so these things always evolve, and we're still figuring this out. We by no means have got this down. It's, every 6 months or so we've changed how the program functions in some way, shape, or form. When we first started, it was kind of like we were doing ingredients shopping, right? We'd go find some really interesting tech, and we'd say, boy, what could you do with this in office furniture, we'd run some experiments and see what we learn. But then as the enterprises started working together, we started identifying these opportunity spaces where we thought there were value propositions, not just to the enterprises in terms of the market they serve, but to the consumer, right, to their customers. So without getting into too much of a theology here around how this stuff works, the reality is people only think about and do a very limited number of things every day. You deal with your finances, you deal with your career, you deal with your wellness, you deal with your leisure, right? That's what you do every day, and you frankly don't care whether you're doing that in your car, your office, your home, right? And that's where these technologies really have the promise to add value to the customer. Every one of these enterprises touches these customers and these value streams, right? But no one of them can deliver the complete solution. So we started taking all of our different perspectives and identifying where there are wins to be had
in helping people manage their career, manage their wellness, manage their stuff, and then start identifying, if you're going to go after this problem, what technologies might be involved in that? And then we started looking for them. So as of about 2 years ago, we have local scouts on the ground in Tel Aviv, Silicon Valley. We scout in Austin. We scout in Canada. We scout a little bit in Asia. And we're very much looking for technologies, but not looking for technology for the sake of technology, but things that we really believe are part of a stack of technology that can solve a legitimate customer problem, so that we can map it to a value, right, and not just be playing around with with gadgets. So that's kind of the long answer to how we do it, and then we bring them in. We interview the companies. We probably look at 200, 250 companies a year. We'll probably interview 30 or 40 of them, and we'll probably execute 7 to 10 of these proof of concepts every single year. And so, from the time we meet a company to the time that we frame up a proof of concept is probably less than a month. Because they're startups. You can't take 6 months figuring out whether there's something to do. You gotta move. And so, getting that friction out of the system has been a big part of it. So once we do that, we frame up a 12-week proof of concept. That proof of concept clearly identifies what the startup is going to do, what the enterprise is going to do, including the resources. This isn't just the startup doing stuff. The enterprises have skin in this too and have resources in it. We fill in the gaps with different vendors that exist in our region, and then we know what's going to happen over the 12 weeks. We also know that if the project is successful, we know what's next and what might happen for that startup. So, startups need visibility to what might be next. They can't just go off and do 12 weeks experiment just for fun. So, we're really starting to model this around how to make the startup successful, and if they're successful, then the enterprise will benefit.
So give us an example of one of your successes.
Oh, we've got quite a few. I mean, so
Got two.
Okay, I can give you two if you want. So one is a company we're working with that was actually local. A company called Alcentis out of Holland that had some new touch technology, and they had struggled to even get the attention of local companies. And so we brought them through the process. We were able to do proof of concepts both with Steelcase and Forcia in the automotive and furniture sector. Between our venture fund, Steelcase, and Forcia, there's been about $4 million that's gone into that company. There's products that will come to market this fall with Steelcase, and there are products that will come to market via Forcia not this model year, next model year. Using this technology. So there's kind of an example of how we can move in kind of a lockstep fashion. So I think a lot of them are those types of technologies, as I said, where it's going to really be hard to stand up and take that technology to market all by yourself. And you're going to need commercialization partners. I think that's what's new about some of these new startups and the people that you can attract here and can work with is, you could never raise enough venture capital to fully take your technology to market. Secondly, you probably have a technology that could work in 4, 5, 6 markets. And you got to figure out how to roadmap that technology against real market data to know what's it going to take in each of these, and how do we roll this out? Because I think we've all seen these companies that start down the road and then realize, oh, that's going to take 5 years. Back up, next market, back up. You don't have time to do that in serial fashion. You need to test multiple markets in parallel fashion.
So I think following on that, in terms of evaluating the startups for fit and ability to succeed, is there some things that you have to winnow out? What are the key things that you look for as you're going through that initial process to figure out who you're going to really work with?
Yeah, so the market has helped us a lot in that, because originally we thought we'd have to go after really early stage companies or they wouldn't be interested. What we really started to learn is most of the companies we're working with now have raised anywhere from $2 to $10 million in capital already. They have a team, they have a working technology. We would have thought that companies at that stage had already figured out a lot of their go-to-market, but what we're finding is they haven't. And so that's where our real success is. So one, the market has sorted it out. Two, they probably have some level of market validation. We've struggled with companies that are driven by pure scientists that have this great technology that keeps getting iterated. It always looks great at first blush, but then all of a sudden when you start putting it through that market test, it falls apart. So they generally have a balance of that. And then I think it's just a matter of the companies that have some notion of how their technology can impact some of these core industries. Again, it's not just technology for technology's sake. We're having a tremendous amount of success right now in Israel. Israel and Canada are great markets to scout in because their governments invest a tremendous amount of money in R&D and incubating these companies. So, that gives us two things. I mean, one, these companies have gone further before they took in venture capital, which also means before they had to particularly choose a market direction. So once a company takes in venture and been told their money, we're going this way, it makes it hard for them to move, right? If they can get past that stage with their own money or non-dilutive money, they've still got that flexibility. Secondly, it's great to work in markets that have a lot of R&D and no population because they have no market to sell their products in. And they're all looking for relationships in larger marketplaces. But we're also, there are pockets on the East Coast and emerging markets. Interesting stuff coming out of Pittsburgh, interesting stuff coming out of Madison, interesting stuff coming out, like places like this, I think, are where a lot of these technologies are coming from.
How about your local enterprise community? For that matter, if you're reaching out beyond boundaries of the Grand Rapids area, how does that enterprise community work with you or interact with students?
Yeah, so they're very engaged. I mean, when we're recruiting startups to Seamless, the number one selling point to them is I say, listen, this isn't Techstars and this isn't Y Combinator, where there's a bunch of venture capitalists that are running a program and they went and stuck a bunch of corporate logos on the wall. For some people that are going to look at your pitch deck twice while you're there. Seamless operates literally as an extension of the open innovation strategies of these enterprises. It's their program that I manage, not my program that they sponsor. And that's a big difference. So the level of engagement that they get from the enterprises is significant. I mean, these enterprises are pouring, hundreds of hours into this this process. And, so even like with Foresee Automotive, which, they're my tier one auto partner, they're a Paris, France-based company. Their innovation center happened to be in Holland. They're now co-locating in our space 3 days a week. And some of the other enterprises are starting to do the same. So they're very, very involved. I think you could involve enterprises from elsewhere, but I think there's a selling point. You were talking about the culture up here. I think there's a selling point to a market like Grand Rapids that we're small enough and that the social fabric that there is as much of a value. The fact that all of these companies are in a very small geography, can all get to each other, all know each other, and that we're in a market that's small enough that we don't see the social stratification that you see in a large market. The CEOs of all of these companies are eating in the same restaurants that all of the entrepreneurs are, and that creates that removes friction. It creates a fluidity in the market that I think is important. So our current plan is to stay kind of focused with enterprises in the region, but if we have gaps, in that perspective map that we're trying to build, we have some notion to reaching out. We were also working on some plans to possibly replicate the model in other geographies to make it more accessible. The actual projects themselves, they also reach into like their NRE budgets to fund ongoing project work, and then several of them have venture arms as well that have the ability to invest. So, another benefit to the startups that are coming in is if you go to a pure breed accelerator, your only option coming off the backside is you either get investment or you don't. These enterprises have multiple ways they can engage these startups. They can sign licensing agreements, they can sign supply agreements, they can make investments, they can do joint venture agreements, they can do all kinds of different, there's multiple ways that they can engage at the end, which gives you a lot more flexibility than just a binary, we're gonna write a check or we're not.
What advice can you give us as we look to move forward with the potential accelerator program here?
I think it's the advice that we took from others and that we would give to any, it is, you've got to build ecosystems on unfair advantages, right? 6, 7, 8 years ago, you could just, have a generic ecosystem with an angel group and say, anybody that wants to start anything, go ahead. Oh, it's cheaper to live in Grand Rapids than Silicon Valley. And I just don't believe you can do that anymore. Just like the companies that we're all looking at as venture capital, you want to see an unfair advantage. You want to see something there that you can't get someplace else, right? And so that is either, we always talk in terms of 3 forms of capital. All of these startups are thriving on intellectual capital, social or commercialization capital, and financial capital. So it's access to those, and then it's removing the friction between those. Like the ICE program here, those are huge, because that means speed. So, to the degree that you can remove the friction in acquiring the assets those companies need, that's where you focus. I think you guys are doing a great job of that. I think materials are a huge opportunity. I guess where I would challenge you is to be careful not to use a traditional definition of materials, because this convergence of digital and physical, if I could, if you could coin a phrase, material as a service, that's what I'd be thinking. And your density in computer science and materials, I'd really be working hard to pull those together, because I think that's really where a lot of this stuff is going, and you've got a lot of the intellectual capital and infrastructure here to do it. And I don't think you're going to have a hard time coming up with a message that's attractive. I mean, I don't have any research university capacity in my market, so I had to lean into the enterprises. You do. So I think you're headed all in the right direction, and that the market's probably bigger. You're going to find that it's bigger and broader than you ever thought it was.
So, assuming we're successful at moving this proposal forward, do you see any opportunities for partnering between the Smart Zone, Michigan Tech, Accelerator, and Sequence?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I first started talking with Patrick and Marilyn, this was, materials are right squarely in our crosshairs. That's why I said, when you say IoT, it's the most generic term in the world, and when we think of it as digitally enabled whatever, right? And materials live smack dab in the middle of that. For companies obviously like for C Automotive, in Steelcase, and others that are in our region, Whirlpool, Stryker, Bissell. There are clear opportunities, to collaborate. I think there's also opportunities for startups that we're living with in the more digital space to find some physical, intellectual capabilities to partner with what's going on here. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay.